I've been told that there's something about me that ain't like everybody else. I can't figure it out. My man. Long time ago, in a remote village on the border of Pakistan, I had just completed a raid of a house. And inside of it, we found 4 guys with a lot of ammunition and a lot of weapons that they weren't supposed to have. They were bad guys. And after my guys were prosecuting the search, we had them all taped up. They were going to be brought back to the rear. I went over by a wall because I was a platoon leader. And I started looking at my map, and I started planning what's the next step? What's the next plan for this patrol? And a little 15-year-old kid, 14, 15-year-old Pashto kid came up to me, and he squatted down, and he stared right in my face. And he goes, in English, "Do you urinate on the Quran?" What are you talking about, man? Come on. A couple things hit me. One, it's in English. This is in Afghanistan. People speak Pashto. I'm not supposed to speak English. And before I could really think about what was going on, he said the second question. He goes, "Do you photograph women?" What's this? This guy's a stupid kid. What are you asking me these questions for? But his face was intense. His face was, he wanted to know the truth. He wanted to know if that's what I did. And then it hit me a couple seconds later, this kid, his brain's not his own. This guy grew up in a culture that has been teaching him something that's not true. So much so that whenever he gets to see the infidel, he gets to see what the enemy looks like to his face, he asks me what's true. And when I told him, no, I don't do those things, that's not who I am, that's not what I stand for, that's not what I'm over here doing, he did not believe me. And the idea is pretty simple. There gets to be a point when people, their mind isn't their own. And if you have a culture that bakes it into you, that is so thoroughly evil and so thoroughly perverted and twisted, that I don't care who you are, how educated you are, or what role you play, if you come from that culture, you're not going to know truth when it speaks it to your face. And I'm thinking about this kid as I talk about this today, and I say, well, how does this relate? So I want to talk to you about freedom. I want to talk to you about freedom in a way that I don't think anyone's ever talked to you about. But before I do that, I think it's necessary that I state my bias. Because if someone's going to be talking to me about freedom, I want to know what their opinions are. I want to know what makes them think that they're so good that they can talk to me about freedom, right? What's your background? I believe in Jesus Christ. But I don't just believe that he's the Lord Almighty. I believe that that is the only path to salvation. Which means that I believe in the Bible, which means that I believe in a loving God, which means I believe in a merciful God, which means I believe in an all-powerful God. Now, why am I saying this? It's because you can go through life and recognize a whole lot of different things, but freedom comes from God. Freedom is a gift from God. Let me say that again. Freedom is a gift from God. And God, the things that he gives are good, and the things that he gives can't be taken away. So here's what I want to say is, when you realize that freedom is a gift, it changes the way that you think about everything. Because it has to. For example, this is a Turning Point USA event, right? Turning Point likes to talk about capitalism, free market capitalism, First Amendment, Second Amendment, limited government, Constitution, right? These are the things that make America great. Are we in agreement? Like this is right? Okay. But why are those things good? Okay, because they empower you. Okay, but why is it good to be empowered? But why is freedom good? Who gave it to you? See, the basis of capitalism, let me get nerd real fast. The basis of capitalism is that each and every one of us has the right to trade, which means that we can participate with whomever we want to participate. And whenever you tell me that I can't talk to you or I can't talk to anybody else, then you're doing something that you're not allowed to do. So the basis of free market capitalism is the fact that image bearers of God can freely interact because they're image bearers of God. And you can't take that away from me. Slavery isn't wrong because of skin color. Slavery is wrong because it's one image bearer of God trying to control another image bearer of God. And the idea is so powerful that whenever you start to see that other people are image bearers of God, it completely changes the way that you think, not only about yourself, but you think about them. And then you get to start thinking about all these other things that our founders were so smart when they put that in the Constitution. Why did they do that? Because they all recognize that God exists, He loves us, and that freedom is a gift because it can't be taken away. Now, my son's in this audience, and over the past couple days, we've spent going through D.C., doing the D.C. thing, seeing the Constitution, the Declaration, all these other things. And what's funny to me is that these things are etched in stone. These ideas are etched in stone. But more importantly than that, the Bible says that this is etched in our hearts. The moral law, the love of other people, the reason why you don't want to kill somebody is because you recognize that no matter how much you don't like that person is made in the image of God. You don't steal because you know that that's not yours. Now, why is that? I bring this up because America was founded on the idea that we are free, that freedom is a gift. And then in the 21st century, I believe that there is something going on that is already present, that's already happening, where we have a culture where tens of millions, probably hundreds, maybe 100 million Americans have grown up in a culture that has imprisoned their mind. And they don't see freedom like that. They don't see freedom for what it is. They don't see it as a gift. They see it as an illusion that can be defined by someone else. And that's the stick. When you see freedom as a gift from God, everything else flows. Well, the opposite's true too. Because if you don't see freedom as a gift, then it can be whatever you want it to be. It can be whatever someone else tells you it is. And there's a lot of Americans today that believe lies. And when those lies are presented to them as truth, to their face, as fact, they do not have the minds to recognize the power of that truth. They do not then transition into liberation because the truth isn't good to them. The truth is bad to them. And so they don't have minds to even pick up what is true and what is absolute. So here's our challenge for the day. Here's our challenge for this country going forward. How do you deal with people who cannot understand what is true and what is good because their minds have imprisoned them? That's a big challenge. Luckily, the Bible has some answers. The Bible's got some answers. It's easy to do this whenever you recognize that freedom is a gift because everyone is an image bearer of God, has a secret code written inside of them, a thumbprint that God's put on them. And because God's put this fingerprint on them, you can speak to their soul and move them in such a way that they won't know what's going down. 2 Corinthians 10, Paul writes about we are here to tear down strongholds. Yes. That word in the Greek is okurama. I don't know if I pronounced that right? But it's the only time it's used in Scripture. And it's every belief, presupposition, premise, false belief, false psychology, false lie. And we are to tear it down. Which means that the minds that have imprisoned people, and they think they're free, and they think that they understand the world, we are to destroy that. But we're also supposed to redeem the person. I want to tell a quick story. That same deployment, I was an infantry officer, so my job was to close with and destroy the enemy by means of fire maneuver, which means we get really close to the bad guys and shoot them in the face. That's what we do. America's really good at it, by the way, and they're not. But this story, I had an Afghan politician come up to me and says, I want to talk to people. Okay. This is Afghanistan. You don't have radio, you don't have television, you don't have internet. Their roads are dry riverbeds. Like they don't have roads, they have dry riverbeds. So how am I going to talk to people? He goes, round them up. Talking about round them up. He's like, go through the market and round them up. Can we do that? Okay. So here I am, 24-year-old Jarrin Jackson, American from Podunk, Oklahoma, rounding Bubbas Up, just rounding people up. I'd come up to a shop and be like, yo, close down, let's go. No, I'm not going to do it. Let's go. And so I was the armed thug. I was the power. I was the jackboot of the government, forcing these people to go where they did not want to go. And shop by shop, door by door, storekeeper by storekeeper, we would round these folks up and we'd push them out into this open area on the outside of the bazaar. And as I was doing it, one by one, I was the big man. Like, let's go, hurry up, za, za, za. You know, kind of get the baritone and like, you know, that way people know that you're for real. They don't speak English, but somehow they're going to know that you're talking like this, makes it, you know, whatever. Anyway, so we get these guys out there, and, you know, going store by store, it wasn't that big a thing. You know, I wasn't intimidated because I got my guns and I got everybody else, and so I had no fear. And then I realized when we got them all out to the side, when we got them all out, there was like 5,000 of them. 5,000 people. And there was about 30 of us. Do the quick math. That's a lot to a little, right? And even if things like went down and started getting hairy and we just started pumping bullets into them, there'd be too many of them, and that they would overwhelm us. There's 3 words at the beginning of the Constitution, the preamble. We the people. That's a story I think about when I think about that phrase. Because those people, they grew up in a culture where their minds aren't their own. So they had all the power. And they're just right there. And not a one of them refused. Not a one of them said anything. Not a one of them recognized the power and the potential and the opportunity that they had. But those of us with the guns, oh yeah, we knew what was up. We didn't want to do anything to instigate them. We didn't want to do anything to turn them against us. We didn't want to do anything to make these people mad. And that was one of the most scary moments of my life, because you're looking at 5,000 people who already don't like me. I already stick out. So I'm used to sticking out in a crowd, if you know what I'm saying. So they already don't like me. They're already against me. So the point is that that's a culture that they don't understand freedom. That's a culture where every single person is a slave in their own mind. They're imprisoned in their own mind, and they don't have the ability to break through, because that culture doesn't have a mechanism to bring people into recognizing that God gives freedom. That is a country that does not say, we are free. That's a country that says, okay, you want me over here? Okay, what you want me to do next? Now I look at a lot of people. My 8-year-old son, I'm raising 3 children in this world. I'm trying to teach them about Jesus. I'm trying to raise them the right way. I'm trying to bring them up as Oklahoma Sooner fans. I'm trying to do a lot of different things. Sooner! I'm trying to do a lot of different things. And one of the challenges that I see is that people have this belief that God must be out of the discussion. Let me say something. The gospel doesn't need government to grow. You see, in John chapter 6, whenever Jesus fed the 5,000, what they want to do? Hey, let's make this guy king. What did Jesus do? He backed up. When they tried to make Jesus a political leader, he said, I don't want any part of it. Which means the gospel doesn't need government to do what it does. The gospel needs you to do what you've been commanded to do. Now, see, there's a lot of people in this country that try to separate God. Separation church and state, separation church and state, separation church and state, separation church and state. You can't talk about God, right? Okay. I don't want government to shove Christianity down anybody's throat, because I don't want to do that. You either are or you aren't, right? But you can't get our government, you can't get freedom without God. Where do you get free speech? Where do you get your life? Where do you get this empowerment? Why does it have value? Why should you want it? Why is slavery a bad thing? Genesis 1 answers all these. You are image bearers of God, and because of that, you are commanded and made for freedom. Not such that you should do whatever you want, but that you have a duty and a responsibility to live up. And here's one of the great things that I think this generation has that is unique in American history, world history. We have a culture and a society that is godless, that is becoming self-indulgent in whatever it wants. Let's go do this guy with this. Let's go, I'm a girl today. Whatever. All these things. Suicide is rampant. A lot of my friends from the military have committed suicide. Why? Because whenever they get out, they don't have a purpose. They don't know what they were made for, and they're a misfit toy. They're a tool without a job. They're someone without the skillful hand that's supposed to be good and used for something else. And this is our opportunity. We can talk about capitalism. We can smash Democrats all day long. We can talk about how there are evil ideas that we need to trounce, and we do. We destroy the idea, we redeem the person. That's the opportunity we have. That is the unique opportunity, because this is the first time in American history where there's a whole lot of free people that, because they think the way that they do, they don't know what to expect and they don't know where to go. So they use division, they use anger, they use jealousy. Kids are committing suicide, people are overdosing with drugs. They're products of broken homes, and so their expectations of marriage is not a covenant, but just a weekend contract, a Vegas style, hey, this was fun while it lasted, but it's not that important anymore. Nah. See, there's a story of a Marine general in Korea. And he's sitting around a table, he's looking at his maps and stuff, and some dude comes up to him and is like, "Sir, the Chinese have invaded, we're surrounded." And he goes, "Good, they won't get away from us now." That's where we are. That's where we are. Because we have the country where we can say, we are free. We are the country that says that God gave us freedom, and we're the first people that says that's the case. Every other country in the history of the world has been predicated on the idea that someone's smart or someone's rich or someone's descended from God or whatever. They've been all based on a lie, and because of that, the greater majority of people have lived in poverty and slavery and depression and no hope. I don't know about y'all, but Jesus says that he came that we might have life and that we might have it. That's right. I'm not a slave to fear. I'm not afraid of what's next, because I'm coming from victory, not for victory. The battle has been won. Let me nerd out real fast. There's a word called evangelist, right? And I'm not a televangelist. I'm not saying none of that stuff. But evangelist, that word in the Greek means bringer of news, right? Someone who brings good news. And the situation is everyone is holed up and they've got the gates closed and there's a battle outside. And everyone's scared because they don't know who's going to win. The guy who is the evangelist is the person that came and said, "We won. Victory is ours." The good thing about that is that nobody in the town did anything to win the battle. The battle's been won. So what do? You go tell other people about it. You go spread that message. So when I look at this country, when I look at what we're doing, I don't think about what's next. I don't think about who's, this or that or that. I think about what's basic. What's basic is that we are free. When someone comes up and says Medicare for all and government takeover, what's your response? We are free. When someone says you can't post what you want on social media and tries to block your videos and says you're black, you can't think like that, what's your response? We are free. When someone comes up and says, you know what? You're not supposed to do this because we have a cycle of poverty. You say, man, I'm a chain breaker. You know what I say? We are free. The whole point of this conference, the whole point of the values that we stand for is because we were made for something greater than the despair and the poverty and the sickness and the low, sluggish crap that we have right now. Because we were made for something better. We have freedom and we can fight back. I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And remember, we are free.